My name is Mary Riddle, and this is my story. I've been going to Black Hawk for about 20 years, I think 20 years this fall. When I came into Black Hawk that first time, I was in a kind of miserable place. I'm a people pleaser, I'm a fixer, I'm a doer, and I'd kind of come to the end of my rope with all of it. I've done just about everything I could to make the situations in my life work really well, and it just kind of fallen apart like a house of cards. Some of the things that happened were a result of me not paying attention to what was going on in my life, and some of the things are just things that happen to people and happen in this world, and I was just overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed. And I thought, oh, I'll drag my husband to counseling because he must be the problem, and the poor guy. And so we got in there, and after about 15 minutes with the counselor, it became evident he was not going to be the focus of the conversation. And by the end of the conversation, he was a very good counselor, and he just pointed out some things to me and said he thought I might need to deal with some issues that I really never even thought were there, that were present in my life. Found out that some of the things that were going on, I wasn't the victim. I wasn't the poor little person that was having all these things thrown my way, that I'd actually put myself in some of the situations that I was having to deal with and heal from. When I went home from that counseling appointment, I went in that room, I shut that door, and went to war with God. Went to war with him. I was so furious that I'd been such a good girl and done everything I could to keep people happy, and maybe not in the right ways, but it brought me to this place where everything was just tipped upside down. I wanted to know why. Why have I been in a relationship with him? What's it worth? Why would I do that if this is what you do to somebody that's faithful to you? It felt all of a sudden like I'd been walking through my whole life without him there, and I couldn't understand how a God that I'd loved and kind of danced with in my prayer life and danced with my whole life long could kind of like toss me over the cliff like that. And I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed, and in the middle of that I still felt like he's there in the room. I felt God saying to me, I cannot pour new wine into old wineskins. This is the beginning of healing for your whole family. And it really was. And I was just, that was broken down on my knees, humble, totally broken and grateful and ready for him to do whatever he needed to do. And I was ready to do whatever it was I needed to do. I think that my relationship with God today feels pretty open, and I'm in a place where I feel like I can really trust him again. I just need to be reminded, and that he's more than the shelter in the storm. I get to just storm against him. I've done that, and when everything fades away and the storm is over, he's there and he's still smiling, in my heart. I know that, and that's a precious thing to me.
All right. I've been looking forward to today for a long time. This is week 2 of our fall series. It's called The Story. Chris kind of kicked it off last week, and what we're doing in this series is we're trying to reframe and tell the story of the gospel in a new and fresh way for our community and for our world. This is about the story of the gospel, because it's a story, essentially. And part of the reason why we're doing this series, kind of give you the inside track, is that it's our conviction that in Western culture, and in American-style Christianity in particular, over the decades, we have had a tendency in our traditions to shrink the story of the gospel down, to shrink it to something smaller than the large scope that it actually has. So when I say the word gospel, maybe some people maybe even have negative associations from maybe your background, but it is in essence, it's a story. It's a huge story. And if we think of the gospel as I'm a really bad sinner, Jesus died for my sins, I get to go to heaven when I die. There's nothing inherently wrong there, but it's a shrunken version of the story. And just like you go buy like a new cotton shirt that fits you really well, and then you put it in the dryer, and then it shrinks. And when something shrinks, it gets distorted and kind of out of shape. It's shrunken. And so what we're doing in this series is trying to explore the robust, big story that the scriptures are trying to tell us. It's the story of the gospel. It's God's story. And this fall, we're kind of exploring the story of the gospel in 5 main scenes. And Chris kind of set the stage for the story last week with the prologue. This is God's story. It's huge. It includes everything, and it should affect everything that we do and who we are. The story begins when? In the beginning. Yeah. God made a good world where humanity and the entire creation could flourish, but very quickly the plot thickens because humanity thinks they have a better idea about how things should go down here, and the whole thing just falls apart, creating a need for the hero. The Creator chooses a human family through whom he will enter humanity himself to accomplish the rescue. And in the life and the death and the resurrection of Jesus, the Creator rescues the entire creation and begins to restore it. And the final scene, the scene that you and I are in now, is a new beginning, where the Creator is renewing human beings through grace and through the work of His Spirit to begin to restore His creation until the ultimate restoration when Jesus returns. It's a big story, yeah? It's about everything. It's huge, huge story. And that's the story that we're trying to tell this fall. So today we're camping out in the beginning. You guys ready? Okay, why don't you grab your Bibles and turn to page 1. It's way at the left. Page 1. And as you're doing that, I want to show you a picture of a friend of mine. This is my friend Ben. Ben's an interesting cat. He plays the guitar, as you can see from the picture up here. Ben is one of those people, perhaps you have one of these in your circle of friends. Ben's one of those people that is just super, super chill. Like, he's just really laid back Ben. Do you have someone like that in your friends? He's the kind of person, like, there's an earthquake going on outside, and he's like, well, it's kind of crazy, He's just super laid back Ben. Here's what's interesting about super laid back Ben. He plays the guitar, as you can see from the picture here. He's really good at it. And what happens when he picks up his guitar and he starts to play, whether it's by himself or in a band, he starts to perform, something comes out of him. And it's very different than normal super laid back chill Ben. It's like something opens up inside of him when he begins to play and he really starts to groove and get into it. And it's like something opens up. It's a different part of his personality that you don't typically see in a kind of normal day-to-day. He's described this experience to me as being in the zone. Being in the zone. And it's that moment where whatever it is that you do, when you do this thing, it's like you tap into something inside of you, and you're like, whoa, this is awesome. This is good. This is part of who I am, and this is part of what life is all about. Do you guys know what he's talking about? Being in the zone? If you're musicians, you know what he's talking about when you get in the zone. Maybe for the rest of us, it's those moments where, maybe if you have kids, and when you're playing with your kids, and you're loving on them, and they're just loving on you, and there's just something deeply beautiful about a moment like that, and you just step back and you're like, whoa, this is so good. Life is so good right now. If you're parents, you know what I'm talking about? It's just such a rich feeling of playing with your kids and the love that's at work there. Maybe if you're it's like you're more relationally oriented, and you have the experience like you have friends over, and it's late night conversation. You got an open bottle of wine, and you're just talking about all the stuff that's really important to you, stuff that really matters in your life. Or you're on an evening walk with a loved one, and you're just sharing, and you're like, dude, this is so good. It opens up something inside of you that you don't normally see. Am I alone here? Is anybody tracking with me? Okay. If you're task-oriented, then this is the feeling that you get when you finish a marathon, or the half marathon, or the 5K, right? Or just walking around your block or something. Yeah, but you get the idea. Maybe it's the feeling when you get at work and you finish a job and you do really good at it, and you're just like, oh yes, I'm made for this. This is so good. It's that feeling that we get. It's being in the zone. It's like you're tapping into something that you're made for. The story of the gospel begins by trying to tap into that and show us where that moment comes from, when you kind of transcend the details and the mundane routine of your life, and you're like, yes, it's good to be alive. I love this. The story begins by trying to show us where that comes from and who is the giver of that gift. Page 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty, and darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. All right. Genesis 1 is a brilliantly crafted narrative. This is an amazing gem of literary artistry, this chapter is. Now, if that sounds curious to you, to describe it like that, it's probably because, in our culture, about the only time Genesis 1 gets trotted out onto the stage is when there's debate and controversy, right? So I say the words creation evolution, or intelligent design, or fine-tuning of the universe, or theistic evolution, whatever, all these discussions. And Genesis 1 is usually somewhere in the mix there, at least if there's Christians as a part of the debate. It's a whole debate. It's a very important discussion. We're talking about how this narrative relates to another narrative, the narrative that science has to offer about the origins and development of life in our world. It's a very important discussion. I'm not going to talk about that today. Not because I'm scared or I don't want to, but I think this chapter actually has a message that often gets missed in those kinds of debates. It gets squashed. So what we're actually going to do to address this issue is we've invited a world-class Hebrew Bible scholar named John Walton. If you've been here for a few years, he's been here once or twice before. He's a professor of Hebrew Bible at Wheaton University in Illinois. Prolific author on the historical background of the Hebrew Bible. He's written a number of books on Genesis, and this is his new book, right, on Genesis 1, and it's about this whole set of issues. Genesis 1, interpretation, science, the whole thing. He's going to be here in 3 weeks. Saturday night, you want to be here. Do you want to be here? You bet you want to be here. And if you can't be here, we're going to record it and put it online so that you can be here virtually. So 3 weeks, and he's going to tackle this issue head on. I'm not going to touch on that set of issues today for one main reason, is that the author of Genesis 1 was not a scientist. And he is not trying to satisfy our curiosity about those kinds of questions. He has a very, very different set of goals as he tells us the story, this narrative here in Genesis chapter 1. He's trying to describe for us who this story is all about and what that who is like, the character of the Creator. And what we're going to have to do here is reading Genesis 1, being sympathetic to the author's historical setting, means we have to step into somebody else's shoes. We have to look at the world from the perspective of a different culture. How old is this story? It's like over 3,000 years old. We should not expect it to answer the questions we have. But we should pay attention to the questions the author wants to answer. Let's do a little experiment. Look at verse 1, first sentence of the Bible. Now, if you want to, I invite you to close your eyes, and I'm just going to read it and try and paint a little visual picture in your mind. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Pause. Okay, let's be honest. How many of you pictured like planet Earth in your head, or like a globe, or something like that? Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you, honest people that you are. It's a globe. There's planet Earth. Oh, can we keep it up there? Planet Earth, there it is. Now, okay, simple question. How long have human beings had access to this kind of image? When were the first satellite photos of planet Earth made available to the public? Yeah, late 1950s, early 1960s, about 50 years ago. How old is this story? Yeah, like 3,000 years old plus. So again, we have to step aside from how we envision the world and think about how somebody from ancient Near Eastern culture would view the world, which is actually something like this, how most of us experience our daily life. In the beginning, God made the heavens. What are the heavens? What's up there? What's up there? And what is up there? Like clouds and the sun, the moon, the stars, water comes down occasionally. That's what's up there. And what about the earth? What's the earth? It's what's down here. What's down here? Like ground and trees and animals and lakes and rivers and stuff like that. God created what's up there and what's down here, the earth. Perhaps a better translation of earth would be land. God made the sky and the land. And when did God make all this? In the beginning. Oh, that's very clear. Well, when is that? Okay, now, so here, let's just caveat here. This is a very difficult chapter to interpret. And Christianity has a big wide tent. There have always been divergent interpretations of what's going on here in Genesis 1, especially when it comes to the time processes involved. So there's lots of room for disagreement. Committed Christ followers who love Jesus are going to land in different places, and that's okay. It's an important discussion to have. It's not a litmus test for whether or not you can be a Christian or not. So this is Genesis 1. God created what's up there and what's down here in the beginning. I'll offer my view, but feel free to disagree. In the author's language, Hebrew, this word in the beginning, it's not a very precise word. It's actually kind of a very vague word. Reshit. It doesn't refer to a point in time. It refers to kind of a general period of time in the past that came before now. It's about as precise as our English phrase, way back at the first, or way back when. So way back when, God made everything that's up there and what's down here. Well, how long did that take? Does our author seem to want to answer that question for us? Well, this is way back when. God made what's up there and what's down here. Now, what the author really cares about is what's going to happen next. Now that everything is here, he wants to show us something about the Creator and what he's like and what he does with the world. So verse 1, in the beginning, God created what's up there and what's down here. Is this a good story so far? It's a great story. Life, flourishing, family, friendship, bumblebees, groundhogs, the whole thing. He made it all in the beginning, way back when. But, verse 2, oh no. But what's down here was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. Now, whatever that means, does that sound good to you? This is not good. This is not good at all. The land was formless and empty, and it was dark. This is not a good thing. This is not a good thing at all. Now remember, we can't have the picture of the globe in our head, so none of this ball of clay floating in the middle of space. The words that the author uses, it's actually a little rhyme in Hebrew. If we could get Kanye West here, he could turn this into a jam, this early part of Genesis 1 here. This little phrase, formless and void, in Hebrew it's tohu vavohu. Say it with me. Tohu vavohu. Tohu vavohu. These are words that describe, typically in Hebrew, a desert, a wilderness, a waste, desolation place. And so what the author is he's tapping into here is a very common notion in the ancient Near East. And if you read the world origin narrative, say from ancient Egypt or from ancient Babylon, when they tell the story of how the world came into being, the world does not come into being out of nothing. It comes into being, its first state is like a big cosmic desert or like a big cosmic chaotic ocean. Now, can humans live in a chaotic ocean or a dark desert place? No. Now, think if you're an ancient farmer or an ancient goat herder. What's the most scary place you can be with your sheep? At what time of day? It's nighttime, out in the middle of the desert. It's chaotic. It's dangerous. It's full of disorder. And life cannot flourish there. So he's tapping into this notion here. But is that the end of the story? What's the last part of the sentence here? The Spirit of God was there hovering over the waters. Is that good news? This is really good news. This is really good news. Look at, just in these first 3 verses here, first 2 verses. Do you see the ski jump of the story? God made what's up there and what's down here. Yes, that's so awesome. But it was chaotic. It was full of disorder and darkness. It was like a big desert. Oh no, what's going to happen? We're biting our fingernails. What's going to happen? But the Spirit of God is there. And when the Spirit or the wind of God is around, what kind of things tend to happen? Good things. Things that bring life and flourishing. And so what happens throughout the rest of the chapter here, the author is going to depict the Creator like a divine poet. Look at verse 3. What does the Creator do to start to bring order and beauty and life to this disordered desert world? What does he do? He speaks. Verse 3, and God said. Look down at verse 6. What else does he do? God said. Look down at verse 9. And God said. Look down at verse 14. If you map this all the way through, how many times does the divine poet speak in Genesis 1? 7 times. 7 times. Which in Hebrew culture is it's a symbolic number of wholeness, of completeness. The divine poet is weaving a world of life and beauty out of desert and darkness. All right, how you guys doing? Tracking with the storyline so far? Okay, now it gets better. Verse 3, what's the first thing the Creator does to bring life and flourishing to this dark desert? Let there be light. Let there be light. Sweet. I wish I could do that all the time. Walking down the street, light, light, light. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to recognize that the fundamental building block of human biological life here on our planet is light. It's where it all begins. Nothing can flourish and live without light. And so the Creator is depicted as ushering this dark desert into a time of life and flourishing by bringing light into the world. Do you like this God so far, this Creator? How would you characterize this first few verses? If this is all we had in the Bible, how would you describe this Creator? He's powerful, but how does he use his power? To what purpose or goal? To what end? He takes dark, chaotic places, places of desolation and wilderness, and he brings life. He brings light so that humans and the world can flourish. That's the kind of God that this story is all about. He's a God who redeems. He takes dark things and he makes them into things that are full of life. You see this here. And what happens throughout the rest of the narrative is the Creator's going to speak into being this world of beauty and order, of life and flourishing. And he just packs what's up there and what's down here. He just packs it full of potential to just explode with life. And he talks about, the narrative goes on, it talks about fruit trees and vegetables and grasses that have seeds and they can just flourish. He makes this world, he packs it full of potential. Image here. Do you guys remember Chia Pet? Do you guys remember Chia Pet? Let me refresh your memory. Chia Pet.
There's a new pet.
Chia.
Chia Pet, the pottery that grows. It's fun and easy. Soak your chia, spread the seeds, keep it watered, and watch it grow. And now grow a whole collection of fun with Chia teddy bears, puppies, kittens, rams, bulls. There's even a chia tree to keep your pets company. Chia Pets and Trees, the pottery that grows.
The Chia Pet and Chia Tree are available at Kmart, Rite Aid, Ames, and Woolworth. Makes a great gift.
All right, let's be honest. Who of you actually owned a Chia Pet ever? So few of us, so few. I've actually never seen one. For the hundreds of times I saw that commercial as a kid, I never actually saw a Chia Pet. Do they actually do what the commercial says they will do? Okay, I'm just going to trust that that's a yes. Okay. Whereas Chia Pet just explodes. What do? You just put on the goo, and it has the seeds in it, and you water it, and it just explodes with life. Just bursts with life. That's kind of what's going on here in Genesis 1. The Creator makes a Chia Pet to just explode with life. And the thing just grows, and it keeps on growing. But watch what the Creator's going to do now. He's not going to let the Chia Pet just go wild and out of control. He's going to appoint representatives to care for the Chia Pet. Look at verse 26 with me. Then God said, "Let us make man," or humanity would be a better translation, humanity in our image, in our likeness. Let them rule over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, over the livestock, over all the earth, over the creatures that move along the ground. So God created humanity in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. Okay, whoa. Passages like this have what I call the HDT, which is the heavy-duty theology. Okay, there's masses packed into these sentences. I just want to focus on one thing. The Creator appoints these creatures and invests them with a special quality, a special kind of property. They have something unique about them, and what is that? This image. They reflect the image of the Creator. Okay, now let's play with this metaphor a bit. I have with me a large mirror. Now, I realize, the angle in the room, but you're just going to have to trust me for how this works here. I can see myself in the mirror right now. Some of you can probably see me in the mirror. Is that me in the mirror? Is that me? Sure, it's me. Look. I'm right there. No. Okay, right. You guys get the idea. I'm right here, yes? I occupy space in this part of the universe. Okay. But this is me in a different place. It's a reflection. It's a representation of me in a different space. It's right there, whereas the full reality, I'm right here. This is something of what's going on here in Genesis 1. The Creator appoints these image-bearing creatures who will reflect him in a different place, who will represent him in the creation. They're like little mini creators, right? And they do the kinds of things the Creator is doing. And what's the Creator been up to in Genesis 1? He's working, he's weaving, he's creating beautiful things full of life. And he creates these little image-bearing representatives to reflect the Creator out into the world. It's image, it's reflections. And what does he tell them to do? Do you see this here? This is verse 28. Look down at verse 28. What does he say? God blessed them and said to them, have a blast. Just go for it. Go for it. Be fruitful. Increase in number. Fill the earth. Subdue it. Rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, every living creature that moves on the ground. This idea of subduing, we're talking about harnessing the potential of the creation and making it flourish even more. It's like agriculture, at least in the author's context here. Do you see the picture here? This is how the story begins. The story does not begin by telling us that we're a bunch of miserable sinners. That's an important part of the story, that there's something deeply wrong with us, but that's not how the story begins. The story begins by trying to give us a grand vision of what on earth we are here for, of what life is all about. We have been given the privilege to receive the gifts of life and breath from the Creator. And we've been given responsibility in this world to reflect the beauty and the brilliance of the Creator back into the creation. It's giving us a vision of what human life is all about. So think of it this way. If mirrors bear an image, mirrors reflect light, yes? How you guys doing? Okay, I'm just killing some of you right now. See if I can aim for the camera. Okay, maybe, I don't know what they can see on the videos there. Okay, now, all right, is this annoying to you guys? Yeah, it is kind of annoying, isn't it? All right. Okay, I'll quit. Now, where is that? Ooh, sorry, I didn't anticipate that one. Yeah, okay, all right. Now, where's the source of the light? Is it the mirror? No. Okay. The source of the light is right there. It's these big, bright ones right up there. And the mirror reflects that. What's the first thing the Creator does in the story to bring life and flourishing to the creation? Light. So it's as if the Creator makes these beings who will take the life and the energy and the beauty that comes from the Creator and reflect that back out into the world. To reflect it back to the Creator in gratitude and worship, to reflect it out into the world in productivity and work and family and relationship. It's just a sweet setup. These little mini creators, just have a blast. Go for it. And let's say you get about 1 billion of these, all pointing at each other. What's going to happen then? Right, you get one light beam coming in, and then it reflects to another. What do you think would happen? You would have way more light than you had to begin with. It would just fill the creation with light and life. That's what's going on here in Genesis 1. Image-bearing creatures reflecting the light and the life of the Creator. Do you guys catch the vision of what's going on here in Genesis 1? This is big, isn't it? It's trying to cast a very wide net to show us what life is all about. And when Ben plays his guitar, when you play with your kids, when you finish that 5K marathon, when you finish that project at work, right? When you organize your underwear drawer, and you have that feeling of satisfaction. Yes, this is what life's about. It's good to be alive. It's good to order my world. It's good to be with these people. What we're tapping into is something deep inside of us about what life is all about and what it means to be human. We're tapping into the light and the life that the Creator has planted inside of us. That's how the story begins. Now you may say, okay, Tim, I'm getting the picture. It's a little ethereal, it's a little abstract, you know. I don't feel like I shine very much. If you're sitting next to your spouse, you're like, they definitely don't shine and reflect the light very well, you know. See, we all have inside of us this sense, of course, that even though this is how things were supposed to be, it's a very beautiful picture. We all have the sense that something's gone terribly, terribly wrong in our world and inside of us. We don't shine and reflect the Creator's light very well anymore. When Ben plays his guitar, he shines. He shines. But there's a very dark side to his story as well. When Ben was a little guy, he went through the experience of divorce in his family twice. Once when he was real little, 2 or 3, and then again when he was 13. And especially this second experience of losing another dad, it just sent him reeling in a huge way. And it messed up his mind and his heart in all sorts of ways. And when Ben was 13, losing yet another dad, as he went into the spiral of confusion, he learned to deal with the pain in his life, as so many of us do, by just stuffing it. Just stuff it down deep. Don't talk about it. Don't think about it. That's why he's super chill, laid back then. But when he was 13, and as he became an adult, he discovered a little spot of light in his life, a little oasis of hope. And as he became an adult, he got married, kind of all those things came to a head. And through his wife's commitment to him, through his commitment to Jesus, he began this journey. He sought therapy, medications, and he was on this long, winding road towards healing and hope in his life. But the irony and beauty of Ben's story is that it was precisely in the darkest years of his life as a young teenager he found that thing that brought out the most light and beauty in him. He learned to play the guitar when he was 13. And he found, although he wouldn't have said this at the time, he found that he could express things through music that he could not express in words. And through his guitar, he began to shine in ways that he wouldn't even be able to express or understand. It's precisely in the darkness of his life that the Creator and the gift for music that was planted inside of him began to shine out. I've invited Ben to share a bit of that light with us here today.
I'm going to chill here for just a second.
Jesus, remember me in your kingdom. Jesus, remember me in your kingdom. Oh, 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 Jesus, remember me in your kingdom. Jesus, remember me.
Followers. We're people with a story. And the God whose story is told in the gospel is the God who brings light and life out of darkness. He's the God who redeems. And Ben's story is like a living parable of what is going on in Genesis 1, which is a story that is meant to give us hope. That no matter how dark our world may get, no matter how dark your life may seem, with this God, darkness does not have the last word. Your addiction, your depression, your struggling marriage, the junk in your life does not have to have the last word, not with this God and not with this story. It's the story of the gospel. It's the story of the God who redeems. I think we should pray. Lord, we thank you for who you are. We thank you for the brilliance and the beauty of your character and your heart that's revealed in this story. We give our lives to you. We pray that we could be a community of relentless and healing hope to those around us, in our city and in our world. Lord, would you infuse the beauty and the hope of this story and of who you are within us? And we can pray because of Jesus, who is the light that illumines the world. Amen.